This is a live presentation of the Titan Upload Network.
The Power Hour is on the air, live streaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and thank you for joining us on this Monday evening. I have been fighting a cold, so if you're wondering why I sound very low and baritone-y tonight, I do apologize for that. It's just something I've been working with all week, but we'll try and make a good show of it. Our guest, Austin Huff, will be here shortly, so we'll just keep an eye on that as things go throughout. But once again, great having everybody coming in on the show tonight. It is a Victory Monday, and of course, gotta love how things are going. Gotta love the way that we're actually getting some momentum, but there's still some things that need to be worked on, especially where it looks where we have a few things that are going to be some hindrances, I guess would be the best word. But it's a simple situation that we have to just try and overcome, and fortunately, we'll have a game against the Commanders this upcoming week. We'll have a lot to discuss and really just a lot of situation football to just go through. And as always, we'll just make the most of it. But we've already got everybody piling in. Love to everybody on there. Sin City Titan. Tighten up. Let's go. Titan Fox, you always have a deep voice. We like it. Well, Fox, I appreciate that. I do apologize for it being deeper, but we'll just try and just tough through that. And hopefully by next week, I'll be my normal, about mid-even range voice. So we'll just see what happens up. Mom's in the house, tighten up. As we said, it is Victory Monday. It's great having everybody in. We're going to get Austin Huff in as soon as we can. So we'll just make sure that we can just go through and get through all this information that we've got at the tip of our fingertips. So let's just jump into it while we've got it. Welcome to the Power Hour. I'm your host, Michael Bishop. Let's jump into the top news. And of course, the first breaking news story happened earlier this week. And with the situation with the concussions, we already knew that this was going to be something that was going to be discussed long term, and that the NFL and the NFL's Players Association would have to try and find a way to make something work for both parties on the end, where players are going to be protected, but also not just from themselves, but from anyone on staff that's trying to get them out for whatever reason. So it was concluded that this week that they both came to an agreement to uphold concussion protocol and update the current one that what it is at the moment. Now, basically what's going to happen is that if a player goes down and he looks anyway just disoriented or just discombobulated, that they're taking the helmet and that's the end of it. They're going to basically put him on the bench, and that's what needs to happen at this point. I do think you have to try and take the player out of the game at that point and give him the benefit that he is going to have to try and get through this protocol situation. And even if he passes and he's still out there just 100% not sure where he's at or where he's going with it, at this situation, it's just you have to protect the players from themselves. And it all basically came to a boiling point, especially with the Miami situation, Tua Tagovailoa getting re-hurt. Basically, it was a situation where it was an outcry throughout everybody on social media. It was just a disturbing image to watch him just stumble around and just be disoriented. Just very much of the sense of all of it. You know, it just did me well to see everybody just reach out and just understand the fact that this is a situation that we have to try and quit trying to act like it's a tough guy support. And it is. But at the same time, there's so many nuances there. There's so much danger nowadays. The game continues to get faster and more aggressive. And it's not about toughness. It's about just making the right decision here. And the right decision is if a player's hurt from a concussion standpoint, he doesn't need to be out there. There's a difference between, a broken rib and then just a mild concussion. I mean, it's not anybody trying to question your toughness. It's not anybody trying to steal your job, which, of course, we all know in the NFL, jobs are always up for grabs. But this isn't the case. Players want to play. And sometimes you have to protect the players from themselves. And it's just an unfortunate situation that it had to come to this, that we had to watch Tua Tagovailoa potentially just go through something that was going to be just a lot more serious than what we thought it was. And luckily that wasn't the case. Getting to your comments real quick. Good win this week, regardless of the nuance. Good to get a division win. And I agree with that, Sin City. And we'll definitely get into that more as we go throughout the show. Time Fox says, I just don't like showing out like all-stars in the first half and having to defend it the rest of the game. And that's just something else we'll talk about, Fox. I mean, I know we all have like a lot of opinions, especially that we just continue to get off to a quick start. And then we just sputter when the second half rolls around. And I have my thoughts on that. And when we get Austin Huff in here, we'll get his thoughts as well. And also shout out to our buddy Lou Man. Always great seeing him on the show. Always bringing some good opinions and insight as well. So my whole take is with the concussion protocol, I think it's where it needs to be right now, but they can improve it going forward. And I think especially next year when the coaches and owners meetings start, I think that's one thing that'll be up for debate. I think they'll continue to try to find a way to make it more effective and make the players feel just at more ease and more safe. And really the best tweet out of the entire situation, and one of my favorite ones really, was Jalen Ramsey coming out and saying, they'll fine you $15,000 for your socks, but they're not going to do anything when you're hurt out there. And there's some truth to that. And how much truth there is, I mean, it really just depends on the situation. And it's hard to say that, but that's the truth. With consistent players going down with concussions and it's becoming a rampant problem again, it has to be a situation that's going to be fixed, and it has to be a situation that's going to be fixed in a long-term sense of things. And Titan Fox brings up a good point. Tua never should have played on Thursday. That medical examiner got fired from what I heard, and you're right, he did. In fact, throughout the NFL, one of their main examiners was fired because the NFL is getting away from that kind of situation. They're going to try and evaluate a better situation going forward from there. Maybe that they do more team-oriented situations where their guy has a better say. And they might bring in a completely different neurologist. There's a lot of things that could happen from here. But you're right. I mean, you're exactly right, Titan Fox. Tua never should have played. There was no urgency to play him. Yes, I understand it was a Thursday night game. But it's a long season. What are you going to do if you're going to hurt your best player and then you don't have anyone to stand up in that role? I mean, let's be honest. There was no major gain here. It was a sold game. It was a game that was going to get a lot of attention, but it was a game he didn't need to play in, like you said. And in these kind of situations, it's not worth risking the player's health. Tua could have took a week off. I wouldn't have missed anything on Thursday Night Football regardless. You probably wouldn't have missed anything either, because generally the home teams normally favored about 80% of these games. So going forward, I hope this is going to be something that's continued to improve and that it is a situation where we can continue to watch players thrive and actually avoid these kind of injuries. And Fox brings up another point, play one game without him or the entire season without, not a bet I would place. And that's the key. I understand it was a big game. I understand it was a Thursday night game and Amazon's still trying to get their name out there as far as what they've spent on the NFL coverage that they put a lot of money into. It wasn't worth it. From the Dolphins standpoint, it just wasn't worth it. And shout out to City Titan. Hit that like button, y'all. I do appreciate that, especially when y'all get me that likes. That definitely helps our show grow and get more attention, especially you guys giving all these great comments and taking care of me. That's what I appreciate. You get it out there. I'm more than happy to keep getting these shows up for you and make sure that we've got everything that you need going throughout the week. And of course, the comments keep flowing in. Love it when I got a lot of people in the show and just want to get some opinions out there. Love it. Shout out to Ryan Harris from the Jump Pass podcast. Love seeing him. Good seeing you, man. Make sure you check him out. The man saying I had to stay up late to watch it on NFL Network. And I mean, that's the one drawback about Thursday night football. Most of us have jobs, you know. If I could sit up and watch it, I mean, I will if I've got the time to do it. But the thing is, most 9 to 5 people generally want to try and get to bed at a decent time if they have the opportunity, or if you have to be up early, you know. It's always a drawback, but the thing is, it is what it is. So understandable. And Fox asking if Lou has Prime. And Lou Man says no. And I mean, that's okay, man. I mean, it's not for everybody, but at the same time, if you have a NFL Plus subscription, I know that's one way you could watch the game if you want. And really, the only reason I have Prime is because most of the shipping that we do, especially during the holidays, it's just a lot cheaper to do that long term. So it just makes sense for us to have Prime. And really, that came along with the subscription. So, you know, if you shop a lot and you like shopping online, it's really worth it. But it's up to you. I mean, really, it's just the convenience of everything. And I mean, normally, you know, they'll find a way to like make sure that you have a way to watch it if you don't have a way to watch it. And, you know, if you want, there's nothing wrong with trying, you know, a subscription for a month. Give it a trial run. There's always some kind of trial run you can always do. So there's nothing wrong with that. Ryan Harris, Amazon Prime is legit during the holiday season. And Ryan, I agree with you. As somebody that works for FedEx, when they're not doing this, I see my fair share of Amazon boxes. Now, I know Amazon's got their own shipping company now, but we still get our fair share of stuff from them. So believe me, I completely understand, and they keep that stuff coming. The man saying good comment. I'm checking into the ESPN Plus. Thanks, Big Mike, for the information. And, you know, that's another one you can use. I mean, the problem is with ESPN, I know you have to have a cable subscription to use it, and that's the one drawback. So, unfortunately, it's one of those things. You take the good and the bad with it, but it is what it is. Titan Fox saying, Ryan, Saturday night would be awesome, LOL. Also saying, yeah, a lot of people forget about the 9 to 5 grind. We have to watch the highlights on YouTube sometimes. You know, believe me, Fox, I understand. You know, on Sundays, sometimes I have to watch the YouTube highlights just to catch up what happened. I mean, normally my Sundays are a little more free up now, and I've definitely got a few plans coming up that are going to be pretty interesting. So I'll keep you guys in the loop whenever I get more information about that. But, you know, it's nice that the NFL has a lot more to offer than what they had 15 years ago. So streaming's where it's at. It's going to be where it's at. And eventually, you know, whenever, you know, NFL direct ticket gets re-signed, I think that that's more than likely going to be on a streaming format. So, you know, we'll see about that. But moving on with the news. Great comments, by the way. Patrick Mahomes is now the youngest quarterback to reach 20,000 yards, and it seems like there's no stopping him at this point. It consistently just wows me at just how amazing he was and just how underlooked he was in the draft. Now, I remember when Mahomes was one of the quarterbacks being courted in the draft that year, and really the entire situation was kind of funny. You either really liked him or you really didn't think much of him. And I was kind of on the fence. I didn't know much about Mahomes other than what he'd done at Texas Tech. He did well. He was well enough to watch, but I didn't see enough that really just was captivating. Could he make that transition from college to the NFL where a lot of guys fail? So in those kind of situations, I look at what his stats were, and I'm pulling those up. Let me pull those up real quick. My apologies. Sometimes I got to work on the fly, so my apologies, everybody. But from a stat standpoint, I look at what Mahomes has done and what Andy Reid has done with him. And let's give Andy Reid credit first. Andy Reid is just one of those quarterback whispering coaches. He can get the best out of any quarterback that you put in front of him. And I've seen him do it with Donovan McNabb. I've seen him do it with Kevin Kolb. I've seen him do it with Nick Foles. You put any quarterback in front of him, and he'll get the best out of him. Even when Alex Smith was struggling at times, where it just didn't look like he was going to be the number one overall guy that we thought he was. He had a career resurgence in Kansas City. And it just really just shows the fact that Andy Reid can take raw talent like that and mold it. But Mahomes had kind of that special factor. It was just the big question, could it be evaluated and moved forward like a lot of players aren't able to, especially coming from the college area? And Ryan Harris brings up a good point. He was undervalued because of Texas Tech scheme, throwing the ball 100 times a game. Scouts didn't think that style would translate to the pros. And that's a fantastic point, Ryan. And, also I think one of the other things that really players were getting onto him, scouts were getting onto him because basically, he was mismanaging his throws, especially later in the games. And I know that was a huge knock, especially you'd see just a decline in the third and fourth quarter. Consistency is always something that scouts are going to push for. And I think especially when you see the games that he's played, especially in the playoff games, and one in particular last year with Buffalo, you definitely saw just the decline that he had as the game moved on. He just wasn't getting the passes more efficiently to his receivers. But for somebody that can go out and make plays on the fly, he's second to none. And it's consistency to where he can do that with players. It's just mind-blowing. I mean, I've never seen an athlete quite like him. There's really no one you can even compare him to because he kind of stands out on his own. It's like, yes, he can run, but he has an amazing arm. And I mean, I'm sure you all could probably come up with some comparisons there. I mean, I think Randall Cunningham would be a fair comparison if I wanted to compare him to anybody, but that's just my 2 cents. Tide Fox brings up another point. Watched a documentary on NFL Network. Said he could have been a pitcher in the MLB if he wanted. Knew that moment he'd be great. Didn't expect the speed, though. I mean, he's definitely been a versatile athlete most of his life. And I mean, I don't have any doubt that there's a lot of NFL guys that are playing in the league right now or did play that had a great chance to be great baseball players if they had the drive to do it. It's just some guys are more drawn to football because it's just easier to play. It's easier to be on the big stage. And then baseball, you have to work your way up now. Most guys just don't want to wait in the minors or in a AAA affiliate where you could just get drafted in the league and just play as a vet. And Titan Fox says, Barry Sanders and Steve Young had a baby. I won't say the Steve Young I agree with. Barry Sanders, if he was more elusive, and I'm not trying to take away what he did last night, that spin move that he put out on the Buccaneers was phenomenal. But at times he can be elusive. Barry Sanders, to me, he could just step on the field and he was never off. It didn't matter. Barry Sanders could just step out there and he was always ready to go. But my biggest question is, can he continue that type of play, especially getting older? And I think that's the one thing Andy Reid has to reel him in a little with. It's easy to make plays, especially when you're a kid at his age. But then when you start getting older and you start getting a little more hits put on you, you start rethinking your strategy. Aaron Rodgers definitely moved a lot earlier in his career. Now he became more of a focused pocket passer. Same was with Donovan McNabb. Donovan McNabb moved a lot. Then after a while, Andy Reid settled him down and he worked best in the pocket. And the consistency's there. And I can see him continue to move up to 40,000, 60,000 if he continues to go. It really just depends on how healthy he can continue to play and how high of a level he can continue to play. But he makes players better. And even without Tyreek Hill, I still think the Kansas City Chiefs are always going to be a contender as long as they have Patrick Mahomes. You have a transcending star here, and I don't see him declining out unless it's just by entry or design. So I'm always excited to continue to watch players like him to play at that level, to play at a high participation, to where they're going to continue to give 100%. And I love guys like that. I enjoy seeing guys at the height of their craft. And Patrick Mahomes is very much, if he's not your number one quarterback, he's definitely in your top three. And the feed just continues to boom. Al Pierce jumping in there. How you doing tonight, Al? Always good seeing Al on the show. And everybody feels the same way. Everybody's giving Al love. So when Al shows up, everybody gets excited. So moving on to our next news story. Cooper Rush has been quite the enigma for the Cowboys. And the only other quarterback situation I can really compare it to is when Tony Romo was starting to get a little more comfortable in his role, and then they started grooming him for the starting job. But the amazing thing is, Rush has just played at a very dynamic level, especially for the 4 games that he's played in. It's hard to just realize that the Cowboys could have lost all 4 of those games. Let's be honest. The consistency that he's put up, especially just having that chance to start, that's a guy that took over and just handled business. So when I look at Cooper Rush, it's easy to get excited about him. But I think he's a quarterback you have to kind of just be a little cautious with. I do think there's some talent. I think Cooper Rush has the potential to be a starter for somebody if somebody's going to be in the market for a quarterback next year. And I think this year really just kind of helped sell that narrative for him. So let's break down the stats that he put up in his 4 starts. So he came in to the Tampa Bay game, put up about 64 yards. We'll just leave that there. Then his first official start was with Cincinnati, put up about 235 yards. The next week at the Giants, 215 yards. Then, of course, yesterday against Washington, 223 yards. And you add in the narrative, he threw 4 touchdowns within the 3 games that he did officially start. And his passer rating didn't dip over 99. So I feel there's a sense with the right coach and even the right team, if Rush becomes some hot commodity going into next year, and it happens, there's always a backup that comes out and makes some noise and gets people excited. Like, he might have some potential. And with Rush, I kind of see it as, it's a coin flip here. For every Tom Brady situation, there's a Brock Osweiler situation. And that's kind of where I'm at with Rush. I think he's good. I think there's a situation, if there's a situation that arises in the upcoming season, where if somebody wants to take a chance on a young quarterback like him, I wouldn't hesitate, but I would have to feel that it'd be the right situation. So, as much credit as I do want to give Cooper Rush, I also have to give Kellen Moore a lot of credit. Dallas's offensive coordinator continues to show that he's going to be a head coach eventually. If not next year, then the year after that. That you can take a guy like him and get production that's steady and consistent, and especially having a good group of talent around you. And as on and off as the Cowboys are, they do tend to have talent. It just never gets used properly. And I think, of course, Jerry Jones gets in his own way. Getting a few more comments out here. Ryan says it reminds me of Jeff Hofstadler and Phil Simms' situation back in the day. And yeah, that's a great point. I mean, in situations like that, you do kind of feel that sometimes if a guy steps in and he performs admirably, it's kind of hard to pull the plug on the guy that's getting all the momentum. Tyne Fox says when he said the Brady situation, we're referring to him supplanting Drew Bledsoe. And yeah, I mean, that's a great point, Fox. I mean, I would say that I was really leaning towards, but I was also basically saying, in every situation when you're trying to replace a quarterback, there's always a situation you're either going to hit it out of the home, you're going to hit a home run with it, or you're going to just go out swinging. And with the Tom Brady situation, no one saw that coming. So that kind of becomes the standard at this point. But I also bring up Brock Osweiler because he was coming in for Peyton Manning and he was playing lights out. And people just fell in love with his arm. They fell in love with his play. He just couldn't translate it over to the Broncos at that point. And when he was able to get a contract with Houston, then that's really where it fell apart. And that happens a lot in the NFL. There's always situations like that in the NFL where a guy gets a big contract somewhere else and he falls apart. So I think you take that into consideration. A good comment by Jim Plunkett, and I could see that. But where I'm getting at with this, there's always going to be a guy that comes out and plays at a high level. But I will say that you got to be very, very careful with these kind of situations. Cooper Rush can play. I'm not going to deny that he has talent, and if he's in the right situation, I think that he could thrive. And really, you kind of look at a lot of situations with the upcoming season. Who would he fit in? Probably who would be the best fit for him? And I'll ask you all that. I mean, what team do you think should take a chance on him if there's a hungry quarterback team out there? And I'm sure there's going to be a few. So, I mean, with the right coordinator, with the right coach, and with the right group of talent, I think you've got potential there. But it all has to fit in properly. So you hope that whatever situation arises, that it's one that he can fit in well and he can handle business. And Brian Harris brings up a couple teams, Giants and the Panthers. And I mean, that's a good point. I do think those would be excellent. I think those would be excellent destinations for him if that's what he tends to go for next year. And Al Pierce brings up a few, or it'd be the Panthers, the Seahawks, Saints, and Falcons. And the Saints would be a pretty good fit. I do think that there's a lot of receiver power in that room. I think you're still going to have, your power running back of Alvin Kamara. And if Pete Carmichael's still there calling the shots offensively, I like that. So the Saints would be my pick on that one out, but a lot of good choices there. But as I said, it's buyer beware. And in situations like that, Cooper Rush will definitely have some suitors, but he has to fall in the right situation for him to really work. Hitting our next story, and this has been going on for at least a couple weeks in the news cycle, and I've been wanting to talk about it, but it's a situation I know is just very infuriating, especially if you're a Brett Favre fan. But Brett Favre has already been in so much hot water lately. There's really not a lot that I can add to or even just take away from when making this discussion. And the fact is, Brett Favre has been in the news cycle because apparently Brett Favre was basically stealing funds, federal funding, to pay for an indoor arena for the Southern Miss volleyball team. And unfortunately, this has been a story that's basically just put him in a very bad light and opened the door to a persona and an identity that we never thought that we would identify Brett Favre with. And the first things first. There's already been confirmed texts. There's already evidence out there that's linking him to this scandal that's already been ongoing. And it goes deeper than we could have expected. You've got the former governor of Mississippi involved with this, basically texting him back, and they're trying to make sure this doesn't fall back on Brett Favre. So already there, huge red flags. And the consistency with it, it's surprising, but the way Brett Favre has been acting, especially the last decade, he's just put out a lot of shady behavior. And I say that because I generally look at just what the person he has been. When he was with the Jets, the entire sexting situation that came out with him basically sending, pics to what was a reporter at the time. And then that kind of just went away. And it was big news. But still, it put Brett Favre in a light where it's like, wow, I did not expect that from him. It's hard to picture Brett Favre doing anything wrong because especially where he's been put on a high pedestal for most out of his career. And Ryan Harris basically just boiled it down better than I could have. Great player, terrible person. And that's what it boils down to. I'm not going to try and take away what Brett Favre did on the football field. I'm not even going to start the debate of him like being taken out of the Hall of Fame. What he did on the football field and what he does off the field are two completely different scenarios. And I do not agree at all with what he's been doing off the field. So right then and there, it's just absolutely just disgusting that he's been taking these funds, that he's just been moving money around in order to fund a stadium for his alma mater. And for what? It's just clout. It's basically him saying, I can make this happen because I'm Brett Favre. Brett Favre basically just reverse Robin Hood people. He just robbed from the poor and gave to the rich. And it's just mind-blowing to me. And honestly, it's going to get worse before it gets better for him. It's going to be hard to see how this plays out, but I guarantee you it's a situation that is just not going to get better for him. And jail time is very realistic. And Titan Fox brings that up. I heard there was a scandal involving people. I'm sorry. I heard there was a scandal involving people putting the R in front of V when pronouncing his name. I've been waiting 10 years to make that joke. And I don't know. Is it really a scandal? I think it was more along the lines, it's just something they rode with if they wanted to make it a scandal. But regardless of it, I don't see Brett Favre getting out of this situation. I think there's going to be something that comes down, whether it is a lightened jail sentence, whether it's a huge fine, I don't know. The government's not going to be happy with anybody taking public funds and are being misused, especially when it's welfare funds at that. So it's going to be a long, just dreary wait for Brett Favre, but I guarantee you, he is not going to like the outcome when the outcome comes. And of course, tonight we've got football. It's Monday Night Football tonight on 8:15 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. And we've got a great matchup with the San Francisco 49ers going against the Los Angeles Rams. And the 49ers are pretty banged up. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do, especially missing some of their key guys. But the Rams have their problems as well. But I do like this matchup. These guys have really put on a pretty good show. You know, the fact that last year I really felt we got some of the best football on the West Coast when these two teams played. So I'm pretty excited with this matchup. I think it's a great primetime game. I do think, however, I feel an upset coming. And that might just be me. And I'd love to hear what y'all think. You know, what do you think? Do you like San Francisco tonight? Do you like the Rams? I mean, I'll give my pick after I get a few of yours, but I do feel that there could be something in the works. I mean, when these two teams play each other, you're going to get some pretty good football. So right then and there, I do feel you look at how consistent the Rams have been. They've been playing good. They've been playing loose. I do think that, especially with Matthew Stafford, I feel that they're really one weapon away from breaking away from everybody else. And that just depends on if Odell Beckham comes back. It's a really interesting situation. But you look at the 49ers right now. Jimmy Garoppolo steps up for an injured Trey Lance. And it's just like he never left. Everything's going to run the way it needs to run. But I do think there is some animosity there from Garoppolo. But he's just using this as a way to just build himself to a better situation. And that's what's going to happen. So I see it as just him just playing it out and being a consistent situation where he can continue to open the door for other teams for next year. Get into our comments real quick. Our good buddy Titan Pratt is going to go with the Rams tonight. So we'll go 1 Rams. Lou Man says you picked Rams. I went 49ers. Titan Fox says, I think San Francisco takes it in a defensive battle close to the chest, probably like 24-21. And I like that. I think it'll be a close game. So that's a good prediction, Fox. And I mean, on my end, as I said, I feel there's an upset brewing. These two teams is usually close. It's usually physical. And I feel you're going to have a close physical game here. And I'm going to go with the 49ers. I feel that this is a potential upset here, but I think it's going to be one that's going to be at a field goal. So I like the Niners here 27-24. But that's my take. I feel, especially with a week of football that we had, you got to feel pretty good and pretty consistent that it's starting to pick up and it's starting to get better. So I generally feel a lot better knowing that we're going to see much better football in the upcoming weeks. And it's always going to be entertaining to me, especially when everybody starts hitting their stride. So I really think that, especially in the NFC West, you're going to have teams that are really just going to start picking up. They're going to start hitting their stride, like I said. So football's going to get better. And I feel a lot better, especially when it's handling business and these teams just start coming out and just whopping on each other. So pretty excited about that. Pretty happy that we're finally getting through the so-called, I guess we'll call it preseason stuff. So it's starting to feel more real. Time Fox says, although you spotted them on both field goals, would you know that I don't? I don't know anything more than you do, Fox. I mean, I know a few people, but believe me, I don't have any insiders, especially on the West Coast. I'm not that big yet. All right, guys. Hopefully we can get Austin in real soon. Just hopefully it's just a delay. But we'll take a quick 30-second break and we'll come back. Titans, Colts, we'll break it down. What we liked, what we didn't like, and what it's going to take to change a few things around, especially when it comes to the second half. I'm Michael Bishop with the Power Hour. We'll be back in 30.
What's on the Titan Upload Network? Why, some of the best live streaming interactive shows giving you Tennessee Titans and NFL highlights and information throughout the week. It's important to us to make sure that you have a great viewing experience and get all the Get down to the nearest computer with YouTube and find all the shows that you've been looking for.
The following includes Titans for Life, Titan Upload, The Power Hour, Titans Rossi, and Brian Johannes. Watch them today.
Exclusively on the Titan Upload Network.
The Power Hour is on the air, live streaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and thank you for joining us on this Monday evening. Guys, always great having you in, always getting all these great comments. It's because of you and your participation and your support that you continue to make this thing successful. So as always, give yourselves a round of applause. You're the true stars here. I'm just running the show. You're just giving me what you want to hear. And as always, thank you for everything that you do. And don't forget, guys, we are a member of the Titan Upload Network. We've got a lot of great things coming up. And believe me, we're going to keep you all in the loop. So it's going to be a lot of cool things coming up, especially with October just kicking off. Very excited about it. Got to keep it under my hat a little, but trust me, when I get more information to give you, you will get it. And as always, if you love the show, help it grow. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok at the Power Hour 615. And remember, sharing is caring. If you love the show, help it grow. Share the show out there to all Titans fans or NFL fans in general. We'll take y'all. we'll debate with y'all. It's all good here. We're here to have a good time. That's what we're here. Out on the Power Hour, having all you on as well. Lou Man saying, you picked Vikings, Bills, Green Bay, Kansas City, and the Rams. Yep, yesterday I saw. And Lou, I just had a good day. That's all it was. I just had a good day. Sometimes it's just easier to get your picks out. And I think this year, I think it's a little easier if I just pick 5 games that most people are going to be interested in. So that's why I haven't done like a full slate of just predictions. It's a lot easier. It draws more interest. And I just had a good day. So believe me, the last couple of weeks, I haven't been that lucky. So it's nice to bounce back from that. And Al Pierce bringing up a great point. The tale of two halves. We have to fix the issue before it's too late. And we will talk about that, Al, for sure. And definitely a lot of agreements as well. And, of course, shout out to Ryan Harris for always supporting us on the show. Make sure you check out his show as well, the Jump Pass Podcast. Always putting out good content, always having some good stuff out there. I promise you, it's worth a listen. Lou Man is changing his predictions from 49ers to the Rams. Glad you're having a good time, man. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to entertain. All right, guys. Well, let's go ahead and get ready and start talking about what we want to talk about. Of course, on this Victory Monday, it feels pretty good, but it's always another situation where we feel like we could have done more. And to say that, it just feels like the Titans continue to leave points out on the table. So to start out, it's another game where Tennessee comes out. They start running scripted plays. And they're working. They already know what they want to do. They already know what the game plan is. They attack. And it was working. The entire situation that you look at from what the Titans' perspective was, they wanted to get after the Colts early, and they wanted to hit him in the mouth quick. And they accomplished it. The problem is, just as it was a problem in the Raiders game, and just as it was a problem in the Giants game, they're not bringing that effort for 60 minutes. It's a half-half. Like, I don't know where they go at halftime, but that's not the same damn team you're seeing that we saw in the first 30 minutes of play. So my question is to you, to start out, what is it going to take to make consistent moves in order to be more efficient? And I know the biggest one is Todd Downing. I mean, we all know that. That's going to be the one where everybody's going to go after first. And that's fine. I'm not going to debate that because it's pretty obvious. But my takeaway is, what's some plays that we need to try and implement more? And the one thing that frustrates me the most is, we're still trying to get our tight ends involved. I don't understand why we're using Chigakongwo so little, or Austin Hooper barely at all. The whole point of going back to a 2 tight end set was to make the place calling more efficient and to give Ryan Tannehill a better safety blanket. That's the problem. It seems like that's now been taken away, and there's just nothing that's consistent about it. So getting to your comments real quick, Titan Fox brings up, coaching staff needs to use a secret mental trick. After halftime, pretend the score is 0-0, treat it like a brand new game that only lasts 2 quarters. And I'm up for any kind of thing that will help mentally prepare players in the mindset where it is a different game. And that's how it should always be. You should never feel comfortable, especially in the National Football League. It's not that you're trying to give away a lead. but the Titans have just done a very poor job of trying to be consistent enough to handle business. Ryan Harris brings up this point. Titans play like Super Bowl champs for 30 minutes and play like they want the number one pick the last 30 minutes. And that's a great analogy. I mean, you look at what they did, and we won't talk about the Buffalo game. That was completely different. You look at the 3 games that they've already played in, the Giants, the Raiders, and with the Colts. The intensity's there. The fight's there. It's just not being played for 60 minutes. And that's just high school. That's a high school mentality. You know, when I played in high school, the whole purpose was you've got to play a complete game. You can't just sit on a lead. You can't be non-responsive. And Tennessee has just made that a bad habit, and it's something they're going to have to break. The inconsistency is just showing, especially in the second half. The adjustments aren't being made. The execution of the plays is poor at best. If I'm looking to try and motivate my team, you have to find something. Because whatever it is, whether it be on a coaching staff, whether it be on the players, whether it be just on fatigue, we don't know what it is. But it's something that needs to stop. It's something they have to fix. Because this can only continue to happen. And we can only get away with this for so long. And get into more of your comments. Lou Man says more Tier Tart energy. I like him. And I agree, Lou Man. I mean, Tart had an amazing game. And that's what I want to see from every player. I want them to be consistent and have good games. Mark Jones, what's up, buddy? It's just the offense gets used to the new pieces and finding out what works best. And I mean, that's a fair point. But I mean, along the lines, one thing that bothers me, Mark, is Ryan Tannehill has been in this league for over 10 years. And if I'm a coordinator, I should feel comfortable enough to hand him any sort of situation and trust him more. And in some instances, he looks very timid trying to make plays. It's like he's trying to avoid making a major mistake. And I just get that sense. Maybe it's me. But I just look at him, at the way he plays in the second half, and it's like he's trying his best not to mess up. So I kind of see that from that standpoint. And Titan Fox says Shake showed out for his very few targets, and he used Hooper like he's wearing a red stripe helmet shirt. Where's Waldo? And that's the thing. I mean, if we're trying to get back to a tight end set, use your tight ends. And I'm not trying to give you a Captain Obvious take, but I mean, let's be real. We had no tight ends last year, and that didn't do us any favors, especially when we didn't even have a consistent wide receiver core to either be healthy or be available. So you have to just consistently think, I've got to do something different. I've got to get these guys involved. I mean, they're paying Austin Hooper all this money for 1 year, and he's not even being properly used. Art Jones brings up Stonehouse defense, and Henry will keep us in almost every game. And yeah, but for how long, Mark? I mean, it should be every player out there trying to be efficient. And as good as the defense has played in certain spots, and as good as Stonehouse continues to play and help move the field in the Titans' advantage, I still feel it's just a situation where the Tennessee Titans are giving players, giving opposing teams opportunity. And that's what it's about. They're giving opposing teams opportunities to stay in the games. And it's not going to continue to work that way. I mean, remember, we've got a pretty tough schedule coming up. We've got Washington, and I hope everything will work out with Washington. But then you get into the meat and potatoes of the schedule, and it gets rough, man. I mean, you're looking at another gauntlet. And just to put it in perspective, let me just break it down to you like this. After the bye, Tennessee's got Indy. You've got Houston. Then the tough part comes. You got Kansas City, Denver, at Green Bay, Cincinnati, at Philly. And then they played their first game against Jacksonville. And I'm not going to discount Jacksonville this year. They're playing well. We'll see if they can consistently stay good. So it's hard to see that. It's hard to continue to just let this continue to go the way it is. You can't just let those teams coast, because you're playing a slew of at least 6 teams that have a shot at making the playoffs right in that stretch. Mark also says divisional games on the road are always tough to win. And any road game is tough to win. I mean, in the NFL, if you can win a road game, it's a big deal. Whether it be regular season, whether it be playoff. Shout out to Lou Man for my comment. Not sure which one, but I appreciate it. Titan Fox saying the defense being clutch will bite you in the rear once we get to Kansas City, Green Bay, and Denver. And we'll see. I just hope it's a situation where the Titans can continue to be more aggressive in the second half. And I will give credit there to JT as well. I mean, Mark, I'll give you credit on JT for the 43-yard hold. That's a very big deal. And the defense should be proud of that. But unfortunately, we gave up 356 yards passing. So it's kind of bittersweet. But I'll tell you what's not bittersweet is our special guest that's sitting in a waiting room right now. Joining us from the Titan Up podcast and Korked Bats, one of my favorite people on the web, potentially maybe my lost twin, Austin Huff.
What
Austin,
is up?
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's good to finally see your face, because I remember last time we had some technical issues. And
I'm having trouble hearing Austin.
Oh,
I can fix this.
What about now?
So hopefully it's something I can fix.
Let me
All right, Austin, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I'm not sure what is going on with my speakers, but it's always something.
Hang on. What about now? What about now? Can you hear me now?
Well, I'll tell you what I'll do, Austin. Since I can't hear you, I definitely know everybody wants to get your take, so we'll do that. So we'll kind of just go off maybe a thumbs up, thumbs down thing for discussing things with you and me. But for the audience, I'll let you talk and just give me a thumbs up when you're done. Cool.
Yeah, Can the audience hear
All
me?
right, he's got it. So
okay.
We'll make this work one way or the other. All right. So, Austin, your take on the game. What did you feel the Titans did well, and what do you think they need to improve on going forward?
I mean, I think the obvious thing here is that they do first halves extremely well. I think this team, and a lot of people want to break the Titans into a first half and second half team, which I think is fair. However, they're playing so well in the first half that they're not even needing to show up in the second half. So if you're going to chastise them for the way they finish games, you have to give them the utmost praise for starting games, because they're starting games in a way that is able to sustain them for the rest of the game. So I think obviously the first halves are going well. I think the run game and the way they're utilizing Derrick Henry in new ways, more so in the passing game, has been phenomenal. And I'm also very impressed, which not a lot of Titans fans will say this, but the play of Ryan Tannehill. He has come into this season hungry, and he has shown that. And aside from a third quarter in Buffalo, he has played nearly flawless. I know he did have that play at the end of the first half that kind of prevented them from getting 3 points or getting no points as opposed to a field goal there, which is completely on Ryan Tannehill's fault. But I think he'd be the first to point that out. So I just think he's played phenomenal. He's played as well as he has in his first 2 seasons as a Titan. So I think overall the Titans are things, and I said this right after the Buffalo Bills loss. I said things are going to even out. This is a better team than what we've seen. That things will even out as the season plays on. And sure enough, here we are 2 games later, and things have certainly evened out. So.
And I agree. I can hear you now, so I feel pretty good and better about that.
All right, great. Yes.
All right, we are on the air, so I apologize for the mishap. But now, Austin, I know going forward that we feel that the second half situation is going to continue to be a problem if we don't address it. What's one way we continue to find a way to make this not a bigger problem and not let it escalate any further, especially with the gauntlet of games we have with potential major playoff teams?
Yeah, I look, and again, I'm eternal optimist, huge homer, and so I try to minimize, overly blown out concerns, by the fan base. Look, it started with, I think the first scapegoat of the season was Todd Downing and his play calling, and while I don't feel like he should be this team's offensive coordinator, I also need to give him his flowers in, the games since really, at least the last 2 games, he's called much better games. He's had some, he's put together great games. With that said, when it comes to the second half, I try not to be like, oh, the sky is falling. It's this team just cannot play in the second half. However, 4 games in, and that to me is a trend. When you play almost a quarter of a season and you're not able to put up any points in the second half, yeah, that should be of concern, as I think it should be with the Titans. However, do I think it's going to last? And there's my dog. My dog, her and I disagree so much on this topic. So, of course, she's going to chime in at that point. But I feel like I don't think that this is something that is going to continue. Part of it is a bad string of luck. Part of it is the defense not being able to get teams off of the field, which I think was the case yesterday. I think the Titans ran all of 3 plays in the third quarter or something. It was something nuts. So I think it's just a matter of bad luck mixed with more conservative play calling, and I think it will change. I firmly believe that. But yeah, so far 4 games in, it's been frustrating.
And definitely frustrations.
Also, hang on, Titan Fox. I'm seeing these comments that you're throwing up here. Did I not say that I don't think he should be Todd Downing should be the offensive coordinator? I don't think he should. However, if he calls a good game, I'm going to give him credit for calling a good game, and he has the last 2. But in no way am I a Todd Downing. I think Tim Kelly should be this team's offensive coordinator. I think he should be the play caller, and I felt that way last season. I felt that way coming into this season, and I still feel that way. But calling me a Downing fan, no, those 2 words should not be put in a sentence with my name in it.
And I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, especially with Malik Willis, if Todd Downing comes near Malik Willis, I'm hitting him with a spray bottle.
Right. I mean, I just feel like I almost feel like this offense is. I mean, this offense it's a talented offense. Even with the losses that they've sustained in the offseason, and they have fewer weapons, but they had fewer weapons last season during the season, and they still rolled away with the number 1 seed. So, Todd Downing's play calling is very frustrating, and I don't enjoy his play calling. I think it's very predictable. For example, Arthur Smith. I think every Titans fan agrees that Arthur Smith was probably the best offensive coordinator since Mike Heimerdinger, right? Like what he did with this offense, he transcended this team, and he was a big part of why this team had a turnaround. Yesterday in Atlanta, he's obviously calling the plays for the Falcons. They had a drive yesterday where they ran 10 straight plays, and they ran the ball on all 10 plays, and they marched down the field and they scored a touchdown because they were picking up 5, 6, 14 yards per play, here and there. And he just kept running the ball. That I look at that, and then I look back to the Titans and I see Todd Downing, and I don't think Todd Downing would do that. If Derrick Henry was somehow gashing up a defense, I think Todd Downing would still mix up a pass because he feels like he has to. He feels like he would be questioned about it after games by the media. Hey, why did you go runs here? Why didn't you mix up a pass? Or he just thinks that's what you do as an offensive coordinator. To me, that's not the mind an offensive coordinator should have. Now, keep in mind, this is a complete hypothetical, and I'm really just like saying that I don't assume Todd Downing would do it, but based off of everything that he's shown us in the last 2 seasons, I don't think he would. And that's I think the difference between a good offensive coordinator and a guy who's a tight ends coach who was promoted to be one.
And you think that was going to be the situation, especially with Arthur Smith being promoted to that position.
Yeah, exactly.
But
when Arthur Smith first was promoted, I was like, why don't the Titans ever hire from outside the system? And I was proven wrong. I hand raised on Arthur Smith. I was way wrong, and he ended up being one of the best things for the Titans. Todd Downing, I was hoping for catching lightning twice, and catching lightning in a bottle twice, and it has not been that at all, and it's frustrating. But I do think that the Titans can win in spite of him being the offensive coordinator.
Now, just one other thing that has been a problem, especially really most of Mike Vrabel's tenure, and it's just injuries. It just seems like, especially the last few years, we continue to get bit by the injury bug left and right. And
Yes.
Whether it's just they practice too hard, whether it's just players aren't properly conditioned. I mean, my take is I have to just jump on the strength and conditioning coaches, because players that are just falling down and just getting injuries in situations where you think is just inconceivable at times, they're the last line of defense to keep these guys in game day shape. And it just seems like we can't break over that hump. So
Yeah.
do you feel that that's something that we'll have to address next season if this continues to be a problem?
Yeah, and it's funny. I was actually having this same conversation with some friends of mine. It's like, look, when you go through a season like last year, when you are the most injured team in NFL history, when you play 91 players on your roster at some point throughout the season, the most in NFL history, I feel like, okay, you have to take that as an outlier. You have to approach that as that was just a string of bad luck. But if that problem persists in the following season, and and so far it kind of has, knock on wood, knock on some really strong wood. There's my dog again. She hates it when I knock on wood. It is tough. I feel like you do have to take a look internally. You have to take a look at something, whether it be the training staff, whether it be the strength and conditioning. I do think there needs to be some sort of audit as to what's going on or what the Titans are doing differently than other franchises. Because look, if you sustain injuries on the field, torn ACLs, broken bones or whatever it may be, that stuff happens in football. That's football. But when you have like bad hamstrings and when you have bad, I don't know, like just some of the luck that the Titans have had, that's when you have to start being like, okay, yeah, there's something here and we need to address it. We need to fix it. Hopefully, I hope it's not something that they wait to address at the end of the season, but sometimes you have one hand tied behind your back and you're kind of stuck with that. So that may be the case here, but let's hope, we're only 4 games into the season. Let's hope this is just a small string of bad luck. Guys will get healthy and things will come back. Turf toe with Treylon Burks, which I'm surprised it was only turf toe. That seems to be like look, there's nothing you can do about that. That's not going to be the training staff or whatever, but but I like that you brought that up because I do think that is something you need to look at eventually.
And keeping your guys healthy matters. I mean, It's a situation where you have to play till the end of the season, which goes in February. And you look at the 5 teams with the least injuries last year. They were the Bills, the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Chargers, and the Rams. All playoff teams.
Yeah.
3 of them going to championship games, 1 of them winning the Super Bowl. So you can't tell me that injuries don't matter.
Yes, but also keep in mind though, with this team, with the number of injuries that they sustained last year, for them to still somehow find the success that they did, that's a credit to Mike Vrabel. That's a credit to the coaching staff for somehow, despite literally as much adversity as any team has faced in the NFL history, they were still able to find a way to not just win, but win more than any team in the AFC. That to me, I think is huge. Obviously, it did not end the way we would have wanted. It should have and very well could have ended better, but it should not go overlooked just how great of a coaching staff and a coaching job that Vrabel has done.
And definitely the fact that always needs to be acknowledged that not every team that loses 91 guys is going to come out with 12 wins.
Yeah, right, exactly. Like it's phenomenal that they won their division and 2 won a 1 seed in the AFC. Like that is, I mean, think about the teams in the AFC: the Bills, the Chiefs, now the Bengals. Like the Titans were better than all of them while playing practice squad guys for most of the year.
And those are great points. I will ask, especially with the upcoming slate of games we have, we know we've got the Commanders coming up next week, and then we've got our bye, and then we're right back to square one with the Colts.
Yeah, with the Commanders, I think that's the game that all Titans fans should expect them to lose in hilarious fashion. Obviously, we know the Titans are good for 1, 2, maybe 3 of those per year, where it's a team that they have no business losing to, but they're going to. This is the Jets and Texans of last year. This is that kind of game. I'm hoping they don't fall to that trap again, but part of me, I'm like, kind of expecting it. I'm kind of expecting them to just lay an egg, them to fall to 2 and 3, the fan base to get entirely irate and frustrated, and rightfully so if they do lose to the Commanders. But I don't know. Am I wrong in saying that? Like, it just feels like one of those games where this is an easy win, and then they'll rattle off wins against the Chiefs and the Bengals and the Eagles later on in the year, and it's just typical Titans.
You're not wrong, but in my case, I've got some family history where a lot of family that I have on my dad's side are from Virginia. So
okay,
I don't want you to win.
I know, right. No, I mean, I hope they destroy it. The Titans are due for a game where they win by multiple scores, where they win by like 2 or 3 touchdowns. Haven't had one of those in a while. Need one of those in all the wrong ways, because this team is, they're injured. They're trying to regain that confidence back. So look, the Commanders are coming in at the right time, I would say, especially before the bye, and then another huge game against the Colts after that. So it's a tough string. I hate the early bye week, but with the way they kind of started, I feel like that early bye week is a good chance to kind of screw your head on straight before the tough stretch in the middle of the season.
And any fans going to that game, please don't get seats under the pipes. I'm just looking out for you. We all know what happened last year. We all know what state FedEx Field's in. Just go out further to the field.
Right.
Spend the money. Just do it.
Yeah. Yes. I kind of wish Arthur Smith was still coaching with the Titans, because obviously them taking a trip to FedEx Field, that would, that'd be a nice little tie-in, nice little storyline there.
I definitely like the tie-in for sure.
Yeah.
But I would also have to say, it's still kind of weird calling them the Commanders. I mean, it's just
I
one of those things.
I go with the I tend to call them the Command Skins football team. That way, you're not wrong in any way. Like it takes the entire Washington franchise under one umbrella, and so that's my nickname for them.
I could come up with many nicknames, but Contender's not going to be one of them anytime soon, as long as Dan Snyder's running the show.
Yeah, right. No, you're not wrong there. Look, and people love to complain about the Titans and everything that's going on. To me, there are so many worse franchises, and the Commanders are like literally, they take the cake when it comes to franchises that are in much worse situations than the Titans. And look, Titans fans, like we lived it. We lived it a decade ago. We were in that things are going south, things are going bad, and things honestly didn't change. And I was a firm believer of this when Bud Adams was owning the team in those latter years. I was like, things are not going to change until he sells or, unfortunately passes away. And sure enough, things did not change until Amy Adams Strunk took over, and she has done a absolutely phenomenal job with the team, and I couldn't be more proud.
And a lot of things, especially in the pot of progress, seem to be boiling, and a new stadium being one of them.
Yeah.
I would have to say I'm pretty excited with the effect of playing indoors and bringing in more venues and more attractions. So do you think this thing will take off a little more if the Tennessee Titans can get a win streak under their belt and continue just attracting people to keep coming to these games?
Yeah, and that was the thing too. Is like the Titans were at their worst at the worst possible time in Nashville's history. When everyone was moving to Nashville, the Titans were playing terribly. So everyone was moving in with their NFL allegiances of other teams, and it wasn't cool to be a Titans fan. Now that's starting to change. I'm afraid it's it could be a little too late, but Nashville's a party town. Everyone wants to be at the biggest and best party in town. And as long as the Titans keep winning, Nissan Stadium's going to be that for Nashville. I actually was just in Indianapolis on Sunday, and I was at the game, and it was my first time in Lucas Oil Stadium. And my goodness, look, I will not say many nice things about the Indianapolis Colts and their franchise, but that stadium, this is the only thing I will say nice about them. That stadium is incredible. It is phenomenal. I see, and I've always been a fan of the city of Indianapolis. I grew up a Pacers fan. I used to go to the Indy 500 all the time. I love Indianapolis as a city. I think it's like a hidden gem in the Midwest. But when it comes to the Colts, I hate them. And when it comes to that stadium, I'm like, oh, this is what a Super Bowl worthy stadium looks like. This is what it looks like to have a stadium that is sought after all over the country. And this is why they host things like the Combine. I mean, granted, they do have the benefit of being centrally located and stuff for things like that, but it is a monster. The place is massive. It is beautiful. the concourses are wide and they're well designed, and it's got a cool feel to it. I loved Lucas Oil Stadium. It's right up there with Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta as two of my favorite stadiums of all sports nationwide, of any stadium I've been to. They do it so well. And that to me was like, oh, this is what it's like to have a stadium that hosts Super Bowls. And then you go to Nissan Stadium and it's like, what, we got a couple of dollhouses in the end zones and some ramps, some really wide ramps, like that's like it. And I knew that right when they built Nissan Stadium back then, Adelphia Coliseum, I knew right when they built it, like, oh, this is cookie cutter. They built this on a budget. They built this to save taxpayer money. This is never going to turn any heads, because literally Raymond James Stadium, I think, was built a year prior, and they have a damn pirate ship in their stadium. So, where the Texans play, I don't know this corporate sponsor name of it now, NRG Stadium or something. I don't know, whatever it is now.
Some insurance.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Your insurance here stadium. That is like their stadium was built, I think, a year after the Titans stadium. So it's not like the Titans couldn't have built a cooler stadium in the era their stadium was built. They very well could have. They were just very cookie cutter, very cost effective. And now I think they're realizing, now that Nashville has blown up and it's become a destination city, they've seen what they could do with the NFL draft. They're like, we need to host big events. We are a party city. We need to continue that party flair by hosting Super Bowls, Final Fours, WrestleManias, things like that. And I think now it's like, okay, well, we're not going to be able to do it with our stadium, so let's build a new one. And I'm all for it, because I'm pro Nashville. I want Nashville to succeed. And if that's the next hurdle, if that's the next thing that will take them over the edge of becoming a major player in terms of markets within America, I am all for it. So I was so glad that I went to Indianapolis on Sunday, because I got to see that context of like, oh yeah, okay, so this is what Nashville's talking about when they say they want to build a new stadium. They want something like this in Nashville.
And that being said, what's one thing you would like to see implemented into the new stadium that would make you just be like, wow?
Yeah. I now, like I tend to zig when everyone else zags. So personally, I kind of want them to keep the dollhouses. I want them to keep them in the new stadium, just like, it's like just like as like a relic. Get them to like just move them over from one venue to the next, because solely for this, everyone hates them for whatever reason. I don't know why people just hate them. To me, it added at least some character to a very bland and very vanilla stadium. So I don't hate them, but like what I do love is that everyone else does hate them. So I'm like, let's keep those just so we have something to complain about. Because when we have a new stadium, they'll have very little to complain about. But if you bring those dollhouses over, people will complain the hell out of them. So I am all for that. But yeah, I mean, obviously the retractable roof, like I'd love, great suites, great amenities. But what I would love for them to do this time, I would love for them to build it as a Titans first stadium. And I mean that in the sense of make it very Greek, make it very Athens of the South, make it very, the reason they name the Titans, make the stadium feel that way. I would love, like, if they had to like design, give it some columns on the outside, like the Parthenon, make it just feel like when you're approaching the stadium, like you're approaching an old Greek, like a Roman Colosseum, like a feeling of, oh, this feels like a modern day twist. Because like, like Major League stadiums today, like Wrigley Field, obviously they had a revamp, but like Busch Stadium in St. Louis, it's a newer stadium, but it has an older feel to it. I would love for them to do something similar like that with the whatever may be the Titans' new stadium, and also bring back Stadium Inn across the street from Shoney's in the stadium. I miss that place. And so do the rest of the drug pushers in Nashville.
I mean, they got to make their paper too, so I'm not going to throw too much shade on them.
Look, everyone, you got to get yours the way you can.
Exactly. I think one thing I would like to see a better integration of Oilers and Titans history, kind of more interactive, where people can actually just see and appreciate just the history and the culture of both teams and what made them great. And I'd kind of like to see, almost a monument park, what Yankee Stadium has, more in here, where people can walk around and take pictures and have interactive screens where they can look up stats and things. Make it more modern, but just give it just a very just pleasant and just enjoyable vibe.
Yeah. I would love a Steve McNair statue at some point. I don't know when and where, and I don't know if the Titans ever will do that. I would like for them to, but I don't know if they ever will, just based off of the way things ended with his personal life and all. I think big major franchises tend to skew away from that, but I think as much as he is beloved by this fan base, I would love to see him, because he was a great guy. He was a great guy for the city of Nashville, and I would love to see a statue for him. But then eventually, as big of a Derrick Henry stan as I am, I would love to one day, many years down the road, because I think he's still got a lot more gas left in the tank, love to see a Derrick Henry statue in Nashville.
I mean, we very well could. I mean, he's still writing his chapter, and I think it's a situation we could potentially see a statue be put up. Maybe it's an interactive statue where he's stiff arming somebody and the guy's flying across.
Oh my gosh! Oh, if they somehow made a Derrick Henry statue and it was Josh Norman, or a Josh Norman, figure was in it somehow, just flying vertical, horizontally to the ground. That, to me, I think that would be the greatest statue of all time.
Let's put him on a spindle. So you get Henry's arm just pushing him, so every time he comes by, just consistently moving.
I mean, look, you think about some of the best statues in sports. Michael Jordan, outside of United, well, I guess technically inside of United Center now, he's doing his Air Jordan pose, right? Right. Shaquille O'Neal's statue outside of Staples Center, or whatever the heck it's called now, crypto.com currency bank arena.
Let's call it Staples. Let's just confuse everybody.
Thank you. He's doing his famous dunk with his legs, up in the air. He's on his statue.
Right.
Everyone's statue is their iconic thing, right? The most iconic Derrick Henry. If Derrick Henry ever releases a shoe brand, his logo should be him stiff arming Josh Norman, which is hilarious to think that that was a 5-yard run that was actually called back because of a flag. But it's the greatest non-carry factor run in the history of the NFL, in my opinion, and I think that should be Derrick Henry's new logo.
And I'm down with that. I mean, does Josh Norman get money from that for using his image as well? I don't know.
Well, no, that's the thing. You have to be very non-descriptive about it. It's just it's a body. So it's you don't even put the Bills logo or anything on it. It's just him tossing a body. And
okay, so
if it's just a crash test dummy looking human, then he can't sue for that.
Okay,
even
so
though we all know who it would be.
We just have to slightly alter the image to where he's moved maybe in an angle or a 45-degree angle. We'll claim fair use.
Right.
I think
exactly.
Law stance, we can do that.
Yeah. It's like it's like when your mom buys a team jersey from the clearance section at Marshall's, oh, that it's green and yellow and has block letters. Oh, that looks like a Packers jersey. But nowhere does it have a Packers logo on that thing, so you can get away with it. That's how you do it. That's how you get by all those copyright laws.
Or, you have the one parent that goes to the car wash and gets your jerseys.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
They're misspelled.
Car wash, a great place to get jerseys, honestly.
Or shoes.
Or shoes, or the air fresheners that hang from your rearview mirror.
Or just, a shoe that just straight says air. If you're looking for a good shoe that says air, that's where you go.
You can't afford the Jordan, just get the Airs at your local car wash.
Yeah, I couldn't afford the Jordan. We got the Air though. They let me have the Air.
Right, free air as most gas station and car washes offer.
You don't get the swoosh. You get the check.
Right,
get the check.
Right. It's a block check. Yeah. Nike. It like Nike is just do it. The Air is do it if you want.
You could do it. You could do it. Yeah. Well, then we're getting in Adam Sandler territory. It's like, you can do it. No, I'm not doing that. Sandler will sue.
Right.
He'll sue.
Right.
Rob Schneider doesn't have much money left, so I have to think he'd come after. So we'll avert that.
Right.
Oh, goodness. Austin, it's fantastic having you on the show. And before you go, I've got one more question. And this is just between you and me. We're Cubs fans, and we live with that, and that's fine. How do you feel about next year? Because next year is every year for us.
Now, full disclosure, I'm actually a Dodgers fan. However, living in Chicago, I've always had a big soft spot for the Cubs, like always. And it honestly to the point where in 2016 and when the Cubs beat the Dodgers in the NLCS to go to the World Series, like I was down. I was very depressed because the Dodgers are like probably my number one team, even above the Titans in terms of my fanhood. But when they lost to the Cubs, I was like, well, I'd much rather lose to the Cubs than literally any other team in baseball. So I do love the Cubs. I was at Wrigley on Thursday and Friday this past week. I tried to get as many games in as before the season ended. The Cubs, I do think, are in a good spot. As weird as that may sound, obviously they've won what eight straight now. They've won 9 of 10. They're starting to put things together after they've been eliminated from postseason contention. But I do like where they're at. I hope they re-sign Wilson Contreras. I hope they re-sign Ian Happ, and I hope that Tom Ricketts spend some money this offseason. As much money as he's investing into Wrigleyville, I hope he puts that towards the team, because I think this team can be special. And I told my buddy who's my producer actually, who's a Cubs fan. We were talking about it the other day. I said the Cubs to me are in a better spot right now than the Chicago White Sox, because the White Sox, they were a good team. They've coming off 2 straight playoff appearances. You'd think everyone thought this is supposed to be the year. Obviously, they hired Tony La Russa for Lord knows why, and their season was just a dumpster fire. The Cubs, to me, despite being bad kind of from the beginning of the year till the end, I think they're in a better spot now, because if they can somehow get either Wilson Contreras, Ian Happ, or both, they're going to have a lot of money to work with this offseason. They can re-sign both of them if they want. They can re-sign more guys. I think that they at least have a nucleus of young guys who've played a lot this season that will be good pieces around whoever they bring in. They're going to have to bring in some people in free agency, and I think they will, because they're a major market player. But they need to get to work, but I do like where they stand, and I'm excited. I think next year could be a really good year for the Cubs.
I'm definitely looking forward to that, especially after the elimination. But always exciting to see what our Cubbies are doing. So definitely had to get a shout out on that.
Yeah, I love talking some Cubs in midst of Titans talk. I love it. Go Orioles. Go Orioles.
I'm sorry, Mark. I'm sorry.
Where I pay attention to AL baseball as like much less than American League baseball. Are the Orioles? They're not They're not. Are they out of contention yet, or they still have a chance? I know the Mariners clinched.
I don't know, Mark. If you can tell us,
Yeah, Mark, if you can tell us.
But I know we probably got to wrap up because they'll probably put Aaron Judge's damn screen up on mine just to make sure he's going to.
Yeah, right. No, I'm surprised. Honestly, I'm surprised we made it this deep into talking without having Aaron Judge getting interrupted by him. And
I was a little worried about that, but I think we might just make it. So no Aaron Judge interference.
The Orioles have been eliminated, unfortunately. That's I like the O's. I would love to see them be great again. But yeah,
great ballpark too.
Great ballpark. I haven't been, but it's like the number one. If I could go to any ballpark next, Camden Yards would be it for sure.
It definitely just breathes baseball. So, two baseball guys talking about it. Love it. So we'll get in.
And I want to see where Griffey hit the warehouse in the home run derby. That's really why I would want to go there the most, because I'm the biggest Griffey stan there's ever been.
Gotta love the kid. Kid changed the game. I mean, you're rocking the kid's hat, so I feel.
I was gonna say I wear my hats backwards because of the kid. I mean, that's why I love Griffey. So,
all right, guys, we got to get our baseball talk in. So, we know you're here, so it's all good.
I know. I hope we didn't. I hope we didn't shoo everyone away with that.
Everybody's still rolling deep. So, guys, thank you for joining us tonight, watching the show and interacting. Give you all yourselves a round of applause. Without you, this wouldn't be a great show. You make it that way. Austin Huff, thank you for joining us tonight. As always, love talking to you. Love getting your insight. Just want to make sure you get a shout out. Let the fans know where to find you and all your amazing content that you continually put out on a daily basis.
Michael, thank you, man. I do appreciate it. I appreciate you having me on, man. It's always a blast getting to talk to you. And again, unlike last time, which we had a little technical difficulties last time.
That's right.
It's good to see your face this time. Honestly, it warms my heart getting to see that. So, but yeah, I'm on all the socials just at Austin Huff. But what I would love for you to do is to follow Korked Bats. That's Korked spelled with a K. Korked Bats. We're literally just a sports blog that doesn't take ourselves or literally anything that we do too seriously, because there's way too much seriousness on the internet these days. And we just try and have some fun in terms of sports. Obviously, the content skews very Titans heavy, which I think your audience will enjoy because obviously I am the purveyor of Korked Bats. We're a couple guys on the team that produce content for us, but it skews Titans heavy because that's where a majority of our fan base is, and that's honestly one of the things that I love the most. So if you're a fan of the Titans, you will love Korked Bats and the stuff that we put out. We do pride ourselves as the #1 Derrick Henry fan site on the internet. So it is we do churn out a lot of Derrick Henry content, and so give us a follow there. I appreciate it, and it's just something that we're trying to grow and have some fun with. So I appreciate everyone who clicks that follow, like, subscribe, share, any of the buttons on social media. Definitely do appreciate it.
Austin Huff always putting out great content, and one of the most amazing Derrick Henry bromances I've ever witnessed. So if you like to follow that, I seriously suggest you do, because
it's going to end in one of two ways, either with like the most amazing sit down interview you've ever seen in the history of interviews, or in a restraining order. One of the two.
I definitely hope for you. I hope the best going forward with that. Maybe, the cars, who's going to take you home, place in the background. We'll see. We'll see. And guys, thank you once again for watching us tonight. Give yourselves a round of applause. You're fantastic. You keep doing what you do, and we keep putting out good content because of you. So don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok at the Power 615. And don't forget, we are a part of the Titan Upload Network. We got a lot of great things coming up in the future. I will keep you posted for more. So for my host, for my good friend Austin Huff, I'm Michael Bishop with the Power Hour. Take care. Tighten up.
Thank you for watching this live presentation of the Titan Upload Network.